You know that feeling when a movie starts, and within like the first 3 minutes you're already completely locked in? That's Apex for you, at least for those first 3 minutes. Baltasar Kormaker drops you onto a sheer Norwegian cliff face, wind screaming, fingers bleeding through their tape wrap, and Charlize Theron is just clinging on, refusing to stop. No setup, no slow burn. You're already gripping your armrest. And that's the thing about this director, whether it's Everest or Beast, Kormaker knows how to put a body in danger and make you feel it physically. Apex opens like a promise. A big, gorgeous, terrifying promise. It's just a shame the movie doesn't always keep T.S. Oh, here's the setup. Sasha, played by Theron, is an extreme sports junkie, the kind of person who scales vertical rock faces for fun and kayaks through white water rapids like it is Sunday morning. But she's also grieving. Her partner Tommy, played by Eric Bana in what amounts to essentially a very expensive cameo, dies in a climbing accident at the top of that opening scene, and she feels like it's her fault. 5 months later, she's in the Australian outback alone, clearly running from something she can't outclimb. She meets a friendly local named Ben, fresh-faced, easy smile, offers to give her directions, sells homemade beef jerky. Taron Egerton doing his best impression of a guy who absolutely is not going to murder you. And then, well, he very much is going to try to murder you. The premise is basically the most dangerous game with a female protagonist dropped into the Australian wilderness. That's a concept that's been done. Wolf Creek, Deliverance, a dozen others. And screenwriter Jeremy Robbins knows that, which is why the script tries to give Sasha some emotional weight to carry alongside all the running and hiding. But we'll get to whether that works in a second. Okay, let's talk about Taron Egerton, because this is genuinely the most interesting part of the movie and the reason it works as well as it does. We know Egerton from Kingsman, from Rocketman. He's the charming guy, the guy you root for. So when he shows up in Apex as this shucks, helpful country boy, you almost believe it. That's the genius of the casting. He's projecting this easy, can-do masculinity that doesn't fit the template of the guy you're supposed to be afraid of. And then the mask slips, and what comes out is something genuinely unnerving. Egerton goes full psychopath, and he commits to it in a way that's a little shocking if you've only seen him in his previous work. There's this almost joyful unpredictability to his Ben. He moves between affable and menacing in the same breath, sometimes mid-sentence. One reviewer called it wackadoo, and honestly that's not wrong. Ben doesn't feel like a serial killer following a script. He feels like someone who has genuinely built a philosophy around hunting, who finds something like meaning in it. That's a harder thing to pull off than just playing evil, and Egerton does it. The Australian accent Egerton pulls off is also legitimately impressive. It could have easily gone wrong in a way that sinks his entire performance. It doesn't. Theron is doing something quieter and, in a lot of ways, harder. She's playing someone who's already been broken open before the movie even starts, grief-hollowed, guilt-weighted, and the challenge is making Sasha feel like a real person instead of just a survival thriller archetype. And Theron largely succeeds at that, because she's Charlize Theron and she's incapable of being uninteresting on screen. What's frustrating is that the script doesn't give her nearly enough to work with on the emotional side. That backstory with Tommy, the guilt, the sense that she pushed him too hard and it killed him, should be the engine underneath every single choice Sasha makes in the wilderness. Her refusal to quit, her calculated risks, her moments of pure stubbornness. All of it should feel connected to who she lost and how she lost him. Sometimes it does. A lot of the time, the movie just forgets that thread and defaults to chase sequence. There's a version of this film where Apex is almost a grief survival drama with a thriller layered over it, where the external threat of Ben and the internal weight of Sasha's guilt are constantly talking to each other. That film would have been something special. What we got is more efficient, but less meaningful. Theron is always the most human presence on screen. The script just keeps letting her down by choosing momentum over depth. Here's where Apex really earns its money. Kormaker and D.P. Lawrence Sher, the same guy who shot the Joker films, make the Australian outback feel massive and suffocating at the same time. The drone shots are vertiginous and gorgeous, giving you a sense of how alone Sasha truly is out there, how much open land there is, and how that somehow makes the danger feel worse, not better. There's nowhere to hide, but also nowhere for Ben to always be. The geography becomes its own character. The kayaking sequence is a highlight, legitimately tense, with real physicality and no sense of safety. It has shades of that old Meryl Streep film, The River Wild, and it works in the same way. Water is chaotic and indifferent, and watching someone fight it while also being chased is a specific flavor of dread. The action set pieces in general are shot with real muscle. When the film is moving, it moves well. The pacing, though, this is where some viewers are going to get restless. The film clocks in at 95 minutes, which should be tight. And there are stretches in the second act that drag in a way that feels less like breathing room and more like stalling. You're waiting for the next escalation, and the film sometimes makes you wait a beat too long. It's not a deal breaker, but you feel it. The best survival thrillers maintain a kind of tightening sensation. Each scene leaves you with slightly less room than the one before. Apex occasionally releases that pressure when it shouldn't. The score by Taron Egerton is one of the unsung strengths here. Low, ominous, never calling attention to itself. It does exactly what a thriller score should do. Makes you feel like something is wrong before you can prove it. And then there's the end credits song, Nasty Boy by Icelandic electropop band Trabbit, which is, look, I don't know who made that call, but it's genuinely jarring against the film's closing tone. Small thing, but you'll clock it. Underneath the chase, Apex is genuinely trying to say something about survival as identity, about how some people define themselves entirely by how much they can endure and what happens when endurance becomes the only way you feel alive. Sasha isn't just running from Ben. She's been running from stillness for years. Her grief took something from her that she used to get from pushing limits, and now she's out in the Australian wilderness trying to get it back. The tragedy is she finds it by almost getting killed. The hunter-prey dynamic has always been a way of exploring power and will, who believes they deserve to survive and why. Ben's worldview is a darkened version of Sasha's. He finds meaning in pursuit rather than endurance, in removing others rather than testing himself. There's a philosophical ugliness to him that the film gestures at without fully excavating. The scenes where Ben and Sasha are briefly in the same space, talking, circling each other, are the film's most interesting because in those moments the movie is about ideas rather than action. It's also worth acknowledging what multiple critics pointed out. This is a film where a woman is subjected to significant violence and menace, and the payoff is her eventual triumph. That formula has real problems that don't disappear just because the survivor is strong. The film asks you to sit through a lot of unpleasantness as the price of its climax. Whether that trade feels worth it is going to depend entirely on you. So, is Apex worth your evening? Yeah, I think it is, with a specific kind of expectation. If you go in wanting a lean, visually sharp, solidly performed survival thriller with one genuinely unexpected villain performance, you'll come away satisfied. If you go in hoping for a deep, emotionally resonant psychological drama about grief and survival instinct, you'll find flashes of it that make you wish the film trusted itself enough to go all the way there. Egerton is the reason to watch. Theron is the reason it holds together. Coremaker is the reason it looks and moves as well as it does. The script is the reason it doesn't reach the heights its premise suggests. That's Apex in one sentence. A film full of capable people doing capable work on material that could have used one more draft. It's not the apex of anything, but it's nowhere near the bottom either. It's a solid, gnarly little Netflix thriller that earns its runtime, mostly, and gives you 2 stars working in modes you haven't seen from them before. That's not nothing. That's actually pretty good. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Did Egerton's performance hit for you, or did it tip over into parody? And if you've seen this one, where would you rank it in the survival thriller genre? I want to know. Until next time, there's your full YouTube review script for Apex, broken out into sections you can navigate and expand. Opening hook, premise breakdown, villain analysis, Theron's performance, craft and pacing, thematic deep dives, and the final verdict. Hit show full script text at the bottom to get the clean, copy-paste version for a teleprompter or your editor. A few things worth knowing as you use this. The script is built around a genuine tension at the film's center. It opens with real psychological undertow, the kind of stripped-down survival story that might connect physical peril to emotional collapse, but then pivots into something more genre-conventional once Egerton's villain takes over. That shift is treated honestly in the script rather than glossed over. Egerton's performance is the wild card that makes the review interesting. With his regular dude buzz cut and generally jovial demeanor, he's cleverly cast, projecting a more chipper, can-do kind of masculinity than the type we're usually invited to fear in such scenarios, until he very much doesn't. That contrast is the hook your audience will latch onto. For Theron, she radiates strength through a clenched vulnerability and is as human as Egerton is cartoonish, which is exactly the dynamic that makes the two of them worth watching together, even when the script underserves them both.